All right, boys. So, as you can hear, the voice decided to take a little vacation, but the show goes on. I might burst a few bubbles today, but this is my take. Not only does AI not exist currently, some of you might be aware of that, but AI cannot exist. And it cannot exist for the very specific reason that it defies the laws and the limitations that have been put in place by the creator. So we could also think of that as a game developer. This does obviously involve my worldview. And my worldview is that we are created by an intelligent mind. And what does that mean? What have I got to support that? Just take a look around at the world. Take a look around at the intricacy and the synchronicity and the perfection of everything that we interact with on a daily basis. For me, for one, there is absolutely no logical way to contend that that is created by anything other than an intelligent being. And if that is created, then there must be a creator. And a game developer, for example, if we use that analogy, a game developer bakes in rules to his game and limitations, because it's just the nature of how that works. So why would a game developer put in place an ability for the player to break the game that he's playing? It doesn't make sense. So my conception of this goes back to Ray Kurzweil. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with him, but it was around the early 2000s, and he came out with a book called The Singularity. And the long and short of it is that the singularity is talking about technology advancing to such a point, such an extreme level, that the technology itself will become sentient. It becomes so advanced that it's sentient. And through that sentience, it develops a will and a desire of its own and starts to replicate itself or advance its own self so far past, exponentially past any ability for human conception, more or less invoking it becoming infinity, it becoming God, it becoming a creator in itself. And the whole idea of the creation, us creating another creator, it's just nonsense. I don't buy that. So, in the same way that a painting requires a painter and a creation requires a creator, the creation itself being able to create another creator, it's a paradox. It doesn't make sense. How are we contending that? How are we kidding ourselves that that's possible? If for example, I played GTA. A lot of people play that. It's a very famous game. You can't build a house in GTA. The bloke can't rip out tools and start going to work. You also definitely, if you can't even build a house, you can't build another game developer. That's just not part of the code. That's not part of what has been allowed. So just like in that simulation, in this reality, there are also limitations. Creation cannot create. That's my contention here. That's the biggest point that I want to drive home. We can procreate. That's actually the first commandment we were given, to be fruitful and multiply. But procreation is a whole entire different topic than creation itself. So I would say that I have my backing for this is, for example, clones. In the times that we do try and play around with the nature of this reality, it doesn't seem to work out. When we make clones, they end up demented, like kind of retarded or whatever, or they die really early on. And then you've got hybrids. If we hybridize animals, for example, lion and tiger, they then, it's like two things that exist. It's not exactly creation, but we're trying to at least manipulate a little bit. But what happens? They always turn out sterile. So the actual creation, the attempt at creation that we do, cannot go forth into the future. It dies right there. We have to do it again. We have to do the process again manually. So also, my theory on this goes a little bit deeper still. And that's when we're observing the quantum level. And again, I'm just a dude. I don't know truly how this stuff works, but I have a logical mind and I can reason with it. And they say on the quantum scale, the particles themselves are existing in paradox. So the particles are observed to be moving and still at the same time. Explain that to me. The particles are observed to be here and there at the same time. In one place and another at the same time. Explain that to me. Also, if they influence the particles here, then the one over there is going to also be influenced. This is the nature of paradox. That's a paradox. It's a contradiction. It goes against everything that we observe here on the larger scales, on the stuff that we actually interact with on a daily basis. And I would say that we're observing and interacting with is a glimpse into the infinity. It's a glimpse into the very code itself, the game developer's code, our creator's code. And it's also a little wink and a nod to that creator existing outside time and space. So that's why these particles can do things that do not abide by the same laws that the things that we interact with do. Because for this complexity of creation that we look around at and that we exist in every day, for that to exist, it must have been created by a being that exists outside time and space, not from within it. So again, I ask the question, what business does a creation, us, that exists within time and space, have creating a creator outside time and space? Again, the same thing with GTA, for example. The little player, the playable character, can't create the game developer that made him. This doesn't work. So it's a little peek inside infinity, and that is my contention why that is so. So by definition, infinity is inconceivable. It's completely inconceivable to us by definition and intentionally, because there is no part for us as creation to need or want or be capable of understanding that which is the creator, which is infinity. And a lot of people will put it forward like they do, or they can grasp it, or because we can name things, we can write things down, that we've got it figured out. But brother, we don't have it figured out. Nobody does. And I think it's just a joke. It's kind of, it's hubris to think otherwise. So, back to AI. I would say that at worst, AI is just a marketing ploy, a deceptive marketing ploy. And at best, and at worst, it's a deceptive lie with an intention to control us. And I say that because AI itself is, the word itself is a lie. It doesn't exist. What we have, if any of you boys are tinkering around with it, it's a large language model. That's what we're using, large language models. They're predictive text. It simply predicts. It's very complex. It's very advanced technology. It's impressive, don't get me wrong. But it's simply predicting the next word in a sequence of words. And if you've played with it enough, you can break it all the time. It's ridiculous. Once you put it under a certain load. But what is the purpose of that? So if we go to the worst case scenario, what are they trying to do with that? I would say it's the old, if you can't beat them, join them. That's what they're trying to fear us into doing, into thinking. In the sense that if we've got this technology that's on the horizon and it's about to hit this point of exponential growth that can't be contained, and then it ends up forming its own intelligence and will and desire, and then basically wants to subjugate us as slaves, the idea is that we should be fearful of that and think if we can't beat them, join them. If we can't control this AI when it gets there, then we're better off just putting chips in our heads and becoming the computer. So joining it along for the ride rather than letting it just take off on its own run. But I think that's the trap right there. I think they're trying to fear us into joining with technology based on a lie that will never come to fruition. But if we believe it so, then it will. So we're all going to get the chips, and whether or not that reality that they're trying to present to us is going to come to fruition, whether it does or not, they still maintain control. And these chips in our heads will then be able to what? Like Revelation says, it'll be able to control commerce, what we buy and sell. And of course, social credit scores, and they'll have full control. That's full control we would give to them, based on what, in my opinion, is a figment of the imagination. So I can go deeper on that. Yeah, I don't want to get too sidetracked, and I'm not an expert in this. I just, like I said, I have my understanding of it logically, and then I form my opinions around that. But if you ask AI itself, AI, ChatGPT, whatever, Grok, it will tell you that it's an LLM, a large language model. And if you also ask what it will require to become AI, which is artificial intelligence, yeah, it's a very specific terminology. They've also just kind of flipped that now into AGI, because all the companies they're called AI, they're not AI at all. An LLM is not even slightly comparable to intelligence in any respect. The human mind is still, as far as I'm aware, is still the most complex thing that human beings have ever observed. And we're not even close to understanding how it works, let alone how to replicate it. So back to, if you were asking this question to AI, it will be honest and it will tell you what it needs to achieve intelligence, to have an ability to reason and think. And we're eons from that. The difference between an LLM and an actual AI or AGI, it's an ant to a human being, if not more vast. And what we need to get there, in brief, is we need to figure out quantum computing, which is another story in itself. There's another thing I don't believe we'll ever achieve, but that's a story for another day. So we'd have to figure out quantum computing. We'd have to actually figure out how the human mind works. So then, as a result, how intelligence works. And we'd have to develop chips that simulate the mind as well. So we've got like microchips and silicon chips at the moment. We'd need to develop what's called plastic chips, and that sounds simple because we have plastic objects. No, not plastic in that way. In the sense of neuroplasticity. So we have to develop so many things. We're so far, eons away from developing any of these technologies, let alone the understanding to get there to even be able to start designing these technologies. But I digress. God is the game developer, and we are the playable characters in this existence. Some people are NPCs, obviously, but regardless, I don't believe that there's any single one of us that can build a creator from within creation, from within the game. It doesn't work like that. So, as I said up top, this might burst some people's bubbles. I don't know why. I think a lot of people put hope in AI, a lot of hope. And I use it. It's practical. I understand that desire. But be careful not to deify it, because I think that's what a lot of people are doing. And deifying this piece of technology is idol worship, and it will lead us nowhere. Whether you're religious or not, whether you believe in these things or not, deifying a technology that's going to be able to subvert the beginning of creation itself, it's nonsense. It's circular reasoning. It doesn't work. And I guess why I'm saying this is because I don't want to just put a light on the fear. I want people to shine a light on this and actually remove some of that fear or worry that this technology is going to get so out of hand at some point. I don't believe that, and I don't want you boys to believe everything that you hear either. So don't buy in to all the kind of fear corn, because I think I can't say that word here, but there's a lot of that. They're always trying to drill into our heads. And they want us scared. They want us to be fearful of these things. They want us to follow the narrative and follow the agenda. Why? So that they can maintain control. Because control is power. Control is money. Control is everything. Control is a lot deeper than that. It's serving certain entities. But again, I don't want to digress too much. We can do that in other videos. But to wrap it up, how to get us, how to stop us getting us, how do they get us to go along with them? It's by introducing this fear and make us feel like we have a need to put the technologies in our body. But I'm here to tell you, we don't. And I used to, brother, I used to be on board. I used to be fully on board with this. I could see there's a lot of positives. Oh, we might be able to restore sight, live longer, live healthier, eliminate disease, all this. There's like, it's intriguing. It's very intriguing. It's very enticing. And the devil's gifts often are. But don't let that fear inspire you to think that you need to interact with technology on that level. Technology is already part of our lives. Good enough. It's already here. It's here to stay. It's very useful in some cases. But just remember that there's a higher power than that. And it all goes up. If you just keep running it up, the same way that science needs the Big Bang, it's singular point. It all goes back to the singular point, yeah? Technologists now, people who believe in technology and deified technology now, also need the singular point. That's why that book, and that's why there's a movie, Johnny Depp movie, it's called The Singularity, because it's basically it's always trying to take that oneness and that initial perfection away from God and give it to either a Big Bang or the singularity of technology. So I might be wrong. At the end of the day, this is my opinion. It's based on my worldview. It's based on the way that my brain reasons and uses logic. But also, I'm happy to stand on that. If the bots do come, I'm not submitting, boys. There's no chance. I'll be happy to inform those bots if they come knocking on my door what they can do with their demands. And that's because I believe in the real creator. And that's power. That's strength. That's freedom. So yeah, I'm going to end it there. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you got some pushback, if you like some of those, if you got some pushback, throw it in there. If you got, if I went on some of the little tangents there and you want to hear me go deeper in any of those directions, let me know as well. God bless.